In this video, I will tell you the 3 things that men really need from women right now in sex. There are some really important needs that men have right now in sex where they are under stress. Some of them, a lot of men probably don't know themselves. And I'm going to focus on sex in relationships, what you can do for your man as your partner. Although a lot of it is applicable in the dating scenario as well. So the very first thing that really needs to happen right now in sexuality is that men need to receive energy from women in sex. Men need to be nourished, they need to be fed, they need to be revitalized by women in sex. And of course, women need to receive that from men too. So it has to go both ways. And once again, this does not apply to every relationship. Of course, there are many relationships where that is in reverse. But on the whole, we currently live in the cultural paradigm where energy flows from men to women in sex. Now, the dynamic of polarity with masculine and feminine labels on it is certainly a reality in the world, but it is a fairly complex, intricate, and even metaphysical idea that needs proper understanding. But we have this commercial bastardized version of it spreading everywhere as ideology, that in sex, men are the active ones, they are the leaders, they are in control, they are the dominant ones, and in sex, women are the yielding, the receptive, the surrendering, essentially the passive ones. And women are buying into it, and they come to believe that they want a man who will lead and control in sex, and her role is just to receive that and be, surrendering to him. Now, this creates a hugely unsustainable dynamic where men are not coping because they're constantly in the output and they have to produce the energy for two. And this doesn't happen in the vacuum. Sex happens in the middle of a busy life with all the pressures and stresses and, struggle for time and energy. And it also, in my opinion, disempowers and infantilizes women to an extent. It gives more agency to their male partners, and it boxes women into this very narrow definition of yourself. It's one of the dynamics that can happen, that the man is in the lead and you're receiving. Of course, it's beautiful, but that is not all you are. As a woman, you're also powerful. You're a powerful giver. You're a powerful nurturer. You have an incredibly powerful physical love that you're able to transmit. You have incredibly powerful sexual energy that you can give to your man. And also, from what I've seen, it really wakes up your sexual energies to a new level that you can never get to by just being receptive. The joy of loving, of giving, of nourishing, of creating is also your nature as a woman. There are many ways women can do this. They can do this through their whole body, love in a man's body. The vagina is a very powerful place that transmits a lot of energy to the man, but women never explore that side of it. They only think of the vagina as the receptive. Sometimes you can give sexual energy as a gift of leading a sexual experience for the man, essentially making love to him. Sometimes you can give the body energy, which is not necessarily very intense or exciting. It is that nourishing aliveness that can be very powerful, revitalizing for a man. You can be focusing on transmitting really powerful, intense physical love. So there are lots of different ways in which your sexual energy can flow to a man and can be incredibly powerful for him. I teach all those practices in my holistic sex course to women. If you're interested, you can have a look. But I want you to know that this is not work or something you have to do like a duty. This can be incredibly fulfilling and empowering for you and will give you amazing energy in your life. So men need to be restored and nourished by women in sex as well. Sometimes the man gives energy to you. Sometimes you give energy to the man. And a lot of the time it can be just mutual when you're both interacting like this in sex. Both men and women are equally powerful sexual beings that can equally powerfully feed each other and not give an energy in some kind of an indirect way by being magnetic or something. The direct giving of your sexual energy of the body, of your intention, of your physical love, directly nourishing and feeding proactively your lover. So then both of you will feel a richer sexual energy from this activation. You will have a stronger, nourished, well-fed sex life, and both of you will feel more enriched and revitalized by each other in sex. The second thing that men really need right now is for there to be less pressure on them in sex. Men are feeling enormous pressure to make sex really big and long, to have an erection on demand. They feel pressure to make their partner come, and they feel pressure to make sex always really hot and intense and energetic and, dominant and passionate. So there's an enormous amount of pressure on men that is put on them by the media, by the environment, by 90% of sex coaches, and increasingly by women, whether consciously or unconsciously. For most men, there is daily life, stress, health issues, energy issues, kids. It's a lot to produce from your own body, from your physiology, from your mind. It is daunting, it is overwhelming, it makes men feel really crap about themselves, or it puts them off sex. So it's really important that all that performance is not essential, it's not a requirement, it's just one of the variations. And men are able to and allowed to to have sex without all those requirements. Men are allowed to have sex without the pressure on erection, on doing something for a long time, on doing something really intense or energetic, and they're allowed to experience sex. It's just a space that is good for them, nourishing for them, enriching for them, without putting pressure on their system, on their energy. And of course, it goes without saying that women need the same too, of course. Men need from women that enthusiasm and that permission to have sex in those other ways, that is relaxed, that doesn't put pressure on performance. Sometimes women are very attached to particular performative sex because they think that's what they need for good sex. And then men can't avoid that pressure. So that means that women need to discover that kind of sex for themselves as well, where they can be fulfilled and enriched by the time with their lover in more relaxed ways, and it will still be powerful and loving and connected. Often it means that a woman needs to do a bit of her own exploration, how to discover those energies in herself, how to learn to enjoy them. So sometimes women put that kind of pressure on men explicitly, like this is the kind of sex I want. Sometimes women put a pressure on subconsciously, when they are self-centered on their own insecurities. The man doesn't have an erection, you think it's because he doesn't desire you, so the man still feels the same pressure because the woman is projecting her insecurities on him. But most importantly, look, it doesn't even have to come from you. You might not be putting any pressure on him at all, and yet he still feels that pressure, and you are the only one who can take that pressure off. You haven't put any pressure on him, but you still have to do the work of taking that pressure off him. You see, he didn't get it from you, he got it from the environment, from the media. It's been drummed into him. It is so ingrained in men. Men still feel that they have to do all these things to perform in sex. Only you can tell him that he doesn't. He's not going to believe anybody else, and he's not even going to believe you until you've repeated it 50 times. You will see. So researching other kinds of sex. Doesn't need to be hot and passionate, can be just relaxed but super profound, super rich. Doesn't need to have erection. There are plenty of ways to have sex without erection, including intercourse and penetration. Doesn't need a huge commitment of time and energy. Can be for a shorter time but still very enriching. Sex without an orgasm can be super fulfilling and completely stress-free. And even if you want to include the orgasm, you don't have to demand it from each other and turn sex into hard work. I would say men are struggling to find that way themselves, and they need permission from women to not perform. So it makes more sense if that support comes from the woman. Suggest those kinds of sex without stress and pressure, encourage him to have it, reassure him that you really enjoy it and it's really meaningful to you, and then the other kinds of sex will also naturally happen by themselves when the day is right. The third thing that men really need from women right now in relationships is communication. They really need it. It really needs to happen now. He cares about you. He loves you. It's really important to him that you are well, that you're having a good experience with him in life. It is causing men a lot of anguish to know that their women are not happy in sex and to have no way to fix it, to be completely in the dark about what is going on. And if we're talking about what makes men feel really good in sex, then they really need their woman to feel good in sex, psychologically, emotionally, but also energetically. Now, this is not going to apply to all relationships. Again, there are a lot of relationships where communication is good, but it is a pathological problem that women generally have in terms of talking to men about their needs in sex. He wants to know what you feel. He wants to know what makes you feel good. It's a really profound need for him for connection with you. The reasons why women don't speak to men are understandable. It is not easy to overcome the general anxiousness that can be historical for you, from your experience, but also, ancestrally for women. It is not easy to speak about intimacy with a partner. It does need to be delicate. It does need to be sensitive. We are all very sensitive, and that conversation has to be sensitive. And you have to find a way. You have to work it out. Nobody says it's simple. But you can't have a relationship where you don't talk. And sex becomes a sexual relationship where you don't talk. So I would say it's a critical need right now that men need from women, is that women talk to them about sex, because that is the only source that remains for him to really understand you in sex. Because the internet has gone nuts. But I hope this helps.